Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Bridget's Kitchen. Welcome to my kitchen. If you are a first time that you're joining us, no mai haramai, which means welcome, come, you're more than welcome to join us. If you are a repeat offender, so if this is not your first class, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. I'm super excited about today's class. I mean, I'm usually pretty super excited, but today is even more exciting for me. It's called the FAT program, so that's P-H-A-T-T. I'm not trying to offend anyone, P-H-A-T-T. I started this FAT program, and this FAT program was designed to look after your inner self as well as your outer self. And in the last 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks, I've lost close to 10 kilos. And I reckon the reason that I have done this is because I looked at the list of food. It's all about eating real food in this program. I looked at the list of food, and what I realized is that you eat real food, you look after your gut health as well, you get so much more energy, but the food that was on the list to eat was quite limited, to put it lightly. If anyone is watching this who is on the FAT program, you guys know what I'm talking about. So I made it my mission to start to create recipes that were not only really good for us, it's going to help us to shed those unwanted kilos, but also food that tasted amazing. And this is one of those dishes. Now, I grew up eating a diet of literally steak and onions in a big roasting tray. My grandma used to make it. Lots of fried onions and steak, and lots and lots of gravy would go on it, and that would be breakfast for us. Not the healthiest way to start the day by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely a very delicious one. So I wanted to create something that had those elements, which were things that I find comforting. So steak, onions, and creamy mash. So that's what we've done today. That's the recipe we're going to do. Now I am going to show you this complete shameless plug for my cookbook. It was released about just over a month ago. It's called 128 Recipes That Saved My Life, or at least my dinner. Now, part of the technique that I'm using today to teach you guys how to cook the perfect steak is actually here in my cookbook. So if you would like to purchase my cookbook, you can do so online. We're going to throw up some cues now. Coco, if you can pop those up, some cues. You can buy it in New Zealand online, you can buy it in Australia online, and if you're coming to us globally, it's even available via Amazon as well. So we're going to throw up those links now, but let's get into our recipe, because as I was saying, it is a really delicious one, super, super special, and one that's very close to my heart, because it reminds me of my grandmother, and that's a good way to think about our dinner. So we are, in fact, making a healthy steak. We're then going to fry some onions as well with it, and I'm going to make a really healthy roasted garlic cauliflower mash. Everything's really simple. It won't take you very long to do, so let's get going. The first thing we need to do is we need to think about roasting off our garlic. So if you are not a fan of raw garlic, because it can be quite strong and quite pungent, if you're not a fan of raw garlic, this is a fail-safe method to get you eating more garlic, because garlic is so good for us. So when it comes to garlic, you want to break your garlic bulb up, and you want to keep your cloves intact. So I'm talking about skin on, or the unpeeled skin. The thing we're going to do with this garlic, which makes it really awesome, I just need to grab myself some foil, which makes it really, really awesome, is we're going to roast the garlic in the oven. It just needs a square of foil, just like that. I'm going to put my cloves down. I don't have to put any oil or anything like that into my foil. And then we're just going to make like a little envelope. Now, by the way, if you are wanting the recipe for roasted garlic, cauliflower mash, perfect steak and onions, healthy food sent to you, all you need to do is to put into the comments, steak recipe, please. If you put that into the comments below this recipe, we will send you the recipe PDF automatically, so then you can print it off. So I've made my little package, just like that. I make sure that the cloves are in a single layer, which is really important. And now I'm just going to pop those in the oven to roast. They take about 20 minutes. I'm going to put it in a pretty hot oven. So set it around about 220, which from my calculations, I could be wrong, it's about 430 degrees Fahrenheit. So that goes in the oven for 20 minutes. Now I would suggest when you are roasting your garlic, even though I'm just showing you a little bit, by all means buy yourself a great big bulb of garlic and do a whole bulb at once, because you'll want to eat as much roast garlic as possible. So that's going to go into the oven, and that's 20 minutes from start to perfectly roasted. So now that I just stuck it in the oven, as you saw. Don't, that wasn't the sink, that was the oven. Because of course, I've got some for later that I prepared earlier. So that's our garlic done. Pretend it's in the oven right now. The next thing we need to do is we need to think about getting our onions on the go. Now, if you are on the fat program, this is fat stage 2 lunch. So the recipe that we're going to be sending out, remember, state recipe please in the comments below, is for stage 2 lunch. If you're not on the fat program, this is just really delicious, and I suggest you make it because you don't have to be on the fat program to eat really, really well. Anyway, so this is just, I'm just showing you guys what we're doing portion wise. If you're making it for your family, of course, increase it by 4 or 5 times. So I've got a bit of onion there. I'm just over here, if you want to scoot over here, I've got a frying pan on. I've had it on for a little while because I'm wanting to heat it up. I'm just going to turn the frying pan up just a little bit because I want it to be nice and hot. What I'm actually looking for coming off my frying pan is just a little bit of a haze. So back to my onion. We're just going to thinly slice our onion, and the best way to do that is once it's peeled, cut it in half and then create a little base for yourself. So if I was to try and cut it like that when it's sort of all rolling around, there's a lot of chance I'm going to cut my fingers off. Not a good look. We want to keep our fingers intact. So the best way to do it is when you cut your onion in half, give yourself a base to work from, then you turn your onion over. So now it's nice and stable on my bench. I'm doing thin slices of onion, so I'm going to go this way, just with the knife. Try and keep them as even as possible, because when they're even, they're going to cook really evenly. Let's do this one as well. My frying pan is looking like it's pretty warm now. So we're just going to send our onions over to our pan and get them sizzling away. That's our very first step once we've done our roast garlic. Hear that sound? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for it to go sizzle once it hits that pan. We're now going to go to our good old friend Mr. Tamari, which is our gluten-free soy, and we're going to add just a drop of that. That's just going to help our onions to start to get some work. That's probably about a tablespoon or maybe half a tablespoon of tamari's gone in there. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, Himalayan salt. That's going to help our onions to start to break down as well. So now that our onions are breaking down, they're starting to cook. You see that what's happening now is I'm getting all this steam, all this condensation is coming off my onions. And what that is that's the water contained in the onions beginning to evaporate. And as that water evaporates, our onions begin to cook and the flavors begin to concentrate, and the flavor becomes quite sweet and lovely. So we're going to leave our onions to do his little thing there for a while. He's looking pretty good. Next stage, I'm going to show you guys the cauliflower. So this is my cauliflower, obviously, and we're going to be making a roast garlic cauliflower mash. The best way to do that, and this, by the way, this cauliflower mash recipe is phenomenal. I did a pie recently. Some of you guys may have seen the cottage pie I did with the same mash topping. It is exceptional. What we're doing is we're just going to cook that till it's nice and soft, blend it up with our roast garlic, some seasoning, and it's wonderful. So I need to firstly prepare my cauliflower to go into my pot. The secret to making a really good creamy cauliflower, making sure it's all lovely and smooth, is when we chop our cauliflower, we want it to be all chopped really, really evenly. So exactly the same, well, not exactly, but pretty much the same size. So taking my knife, I'm just going to cut down. And the smaller the pieces, the quicker the cauliflower is to cook. So that goes down like that. And as you can see, I've kind of got these big like cross sections of cauliflower. I've got the stalk in there, that bit there, that's fine to eat as well. But if you keep your slices really, really similar in shape, your cauliflower is going to cook faster and it's going to cook a lot evenly as well. So that's done. Just need to grab my, wherever it is, can't find it, might be in the dishwasher. Very important. One of my favourite implements in the kitchen. One of my absolute favourites. This is called, what's called a dough scraper, or it's called a pastry scraper. It's called lots of things, but basically what it does, I'm going to show you guys in a second. What it does is make cleaning up your bench really, really, really easy. And also if you do make bread or dough, this is fabulous to use as well. So now that we've got our cauliflower at that point, which is all nice and chopped up, taking my dough scraper, see why that's so good? How awesome is that? It's like the best ever. I love this so much. So that is our cauliflower done. So all I would do now with our cauliflower is that would then go into a pot. I just cover it with water. You don't have to have lots of water to boil it, just cover it with water. And that goes into a pot, and then we put that on to boil, and you want to cook your cauliflower for between 12 to 15 minutes. I've prepared one earlier, so you don't have to wait for this. Here it is. And as you can see, I've just got enough water in there that's just covered the cauliflower. 12 to 15 minutes, you want it really soft. Really important you want it soft, because if it's nice and soft, you're going to get a really smooth mash. If you find that you've made this before and your cauliflower's a little bit grainy, it probably needed a couple more minutes of boiling to get it lovely and soft. So now that our cauliflower is at that stage, I'm going to drain it of the water. Strain it. We don't want any water in there, we actually want it to be nice and drained. I've got a little machine here, very clever little machine here. And this little clever machine, well, it's just a little food processor, but it's quite a little speedy one, that's why I like it. So the cauliflower then goes into our little food processor. Obviously, if you're making this for the family, you may want a bigger food processor. You may want a larger food processor than what I've got there. So, up to you. Depends on the quantities that you've got working on there. So, our cauliflower's in there. We're then going to grab up our roast garlic. So, this is the one I prepared earlier in my little foil. And as you can see here, the skin is still intact. But what we actually have under here is really the nuggets of gold. We have this really soft, can you see that? Really soft and pliable garlic that just tastes so good. All that bitterness that you would normally associate with raw garlic is now turned into this lovely, squidgy, soft, and very mellow, sweet garlic flavor. So roast garlic is, like I said, if you are not keen on the raw stuff, you will love the roast stuff. If you are keen on the raw stuff, you're going to love the roast stuff even more, because it just takes garlic up to a whole new level. So you see those lovely bits of garlic we've got in there. I'm going to squeeze in sort of 4 or 5, and you can literally, you can see that, you can literally just like squeeze it all out, and it just pops out of the that's when you know it's done. If you can do that to your garlic, you know it's done. If you're making extra garlic, all you need to do is just keep it stored whole in the little skins, just in the fridge in a little container. When you're ready to use it, you just pop it out and it's all ready to go. So that's our garlic. I'm just going to go back over to my onions. I'm pretty happy with them now. They look like they've done some pretty good work over here. They've got some colour. They smell amazing. And I'm pretty sure it's time for me to now just take them out. I'm going to pop them to the side here. I'm going to take them out of the container, or out of the frying pan, sorry, because we need to cook some steak. And yes, we've got a little bit of sticky stuff happening there. That's actually not an issue. Having sticky stuff in your frying pan is actually a good thing, because that's all flavour. Everything that we've got down there in our frying pan is flavour. So I'm just going to put that to the side. I'm just going to put our little cauliflower to the side as well, because what I want to do now is actually get our steak going. So I've got our steak here. I'm wanting to put it into a hot pan. Remember, a little bit of haze coming off it. Now the type of steak that I'm using today is I'm using a fillet steak, which is a nice lean steak. I know it's a little bit expensive. You could also use rump for this, but I'm using fillet steak, and I have these beautiful little they're called filet mignon. You don't have to remember what that is. They're basically little ends of the fillet. Now the fillet is lean because it actually comes from the spine of the animal. Does no work at all. It's pretty lazy, just kind of hangs around because it does no work. There's no muscle that it has to worry about keeping nice and tight. So you get this wonderful, wonderful steak. So that is going to go in. I've got a couple of pieces of fillet there. They're going to go in my frying pan. Once again, remember what we want, guys. We want that wonderful sizzle. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. Now the other steak that I've got here that I wanted to show you guys is what I call a minute steak. So yes, it is a fillet steak, but I've just battered it out. So it literally takes 1 minute to cook. So if you're in a real rush, you could do that. If you've got a bit more time, you can do that. So we've got our fillet steak in there. I'm going to add once again just a little drop of tamari, and we're doing this all with no oil. As you guys can see, there's no oil happening there, but we are going to add some seasoning to it. So a little bit of salt goes on. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper as well. I'm going to take my minute steak and put it over there. What I want to show you guys now, the next technique I want to show you is back to our cauliflower. So our cauliflower, we've got our roast garlic. It's nice and warm. You need to puree it when it's warm. I'm adding a pinch each of salt and pepper, and then I'm going to go over to my little machine here, pop it on, and this is just to blend it all up. Yeah, I'll just get that out of the way so you guys can see what I mean. Turbo. We're going to go turbo on this. Alright. So even after just a couple of seconds, we get that. Pretty fabulous. Let's take it to the next level now, and it's all about the spices. So I'm adding a pinch here of cumin, ground cumin powder, and I'm also adding a pinch of nutmeg. Both of these two spices work wonderfully, absolutely wonderfully with cauliflower. So that they're a match made in heaven. So but you don't need much, just a pinch of each. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some herbs. Now in the recipe I'm going to send you, remember you need to say steak recipe please, and then it comes to you. And the recipe I'm going to send you, I call for fresh thyme. Well, I used all my fresh thyme up last night when I roasted a couple of chickens, and I stuck the thyme up the chicken's bum. And so we don't have thyme today. We have what is this? Parsley. Parsley's fine as well. See, it's okay. You can improvise. The beauty about cooking is not everything works first time. Sometimes you forget and you use stuff you shouldn't have used, but that's all fine as well. So I'm just going to use a little bit of, not much, just roughly chop a little bit of parsley through there. I'll keep the rest of that for when we plate up. That goes in. The rest of it can just go bye-byes. There we go. Back to our little machine. One last little blast of our machine. And we have a wonderful match. So now sit here and just kind of hang out and wait, because now we need to go back to our steak. And let's see what's going on over here. Wow, can I just show you? Let me pick it up. You see the colour? You getting that, Mace? Nice and close. Lovely. Wonderful. Wonderful. Looking good. I'm going to give him a bit of a flip. Oh, he's looking good too. Remember, all the stuff that's happening on the base of that is going to be the flavour, and that's what's going to help us to make our gravy when we are almost done. So, a word on steak cooking. This is very cool. And this is something that I have in my book. That I have the techniques for cooking the perfect steak in my book. But I'm going to teach you guys what I learned as a very young chef far too many years ago to actually give you a number. I'm not going to do that to myself. But I'm going to give you guys the technique that I was taught as a young chef. My tutor, Martin Harrop, still a very good friend of mine, English chef, who taught me lots of amazing things in the kitchen, but he's taught me this one little trick that I have used throughout my career. Because sometimes you get a steak and you're like, how do chefs know when it's cooked? They just kind of go across and they touch it. Like, how do they know that stuff? There's a very good reason why we know it. One of the main reasons is we have this understanding of what cooked meat feels like when you do touch it. Because cooked meat feels completely different from raw meat. And the more cooked the meat is, the more different it feels. So I'll very quickly give you a very brief outline. The reason I want to give you a brief outline, because I'm looking at my steak going, it's nearly ready. I'm just going to put it up here. I don't want it to cook too much while we're talking. So brief outline. How to tell if your steak is perfectly cooked like a chef just by using your hand. So if you want to hold up, let's say if you're right-handed, hold up your left hand. Now have a feel of the flesh at the base of your thumb. Have a feel. Now that flesh that you're feeling there, that is very similar to what a chef is looking for if they're feeling for a blue steak, which is very, 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 very rare. For some people, it's still mooing off in the field. So you feel that for us is a blue steak, or very rare steak, I should say. Not quite blue, very rare. The next one we're going for is we want to feel what a medium rare steak feels like. Put your next finger, just put it at the top of your thumb and have a feel. What's happening now is the flesh on the base of your thumb is actually heating up. I'm going to take this off because this is now beginning to choke me a little bit. I'm just going to put it there. We may set off smoke alarms in the house, but that's fine as well. So we're up to medium rare. This is important. I'm going to teach you guys this. Really important. So medium rare. Have a feel, right? The skin under there has tightened up. Now, if you want to feel for a medium steak, take the next finger, put it there. This flesh is now firmed up even more. That for us is a medium steak. We're going to move one step across, medium well. If you like your steak medium well, I'm not one to judge. It's completely up to you. But the next finger goes across. Have a feel. That is the same as a medium well steak. I'm watching my moderator in the back. She's doing it as well, going, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Now, if you can get your little finger across there, have a feel. That's a well done steak. But you know what? That's a well done steak. Chopping boards are well done. We all know what a well done steak feels like. That's what I was taught when I was a young chef. So when chefs go up and they start prodding away at meat on the grill, that's what we're looking for. That feeling of that texture just starting to firm up ever so slightly. So let's go back to our steak. So I want to now have a look at what we've done here. All right. Very exciting. Let's have a little bit of feel because I want to know what we've got. Okay, for me, that's probably about medium well because I talk too much and I possibly overcooked it. For some of you, you're going, yes, medium well. I love medium well. That's amazing. So that's our steaks done. So I'm just going to push those off to the side because we need to finish the very last thing today in our class, which is our gravy. Really important. I'm going back to my frying pan. Yeah, I know, look at the work I've done on there. It's going to be nice cleaning that one, huh? But that's all right because we actually want to work with some of those little crispy bits that we've got happening there and create our little gravy. So we've put it back on. I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of water just to the base of that frying pan. And already you can see that we're getting flavour. We're getting our little gravy. I'm excited now. This is great. All right. Wooden spoon. We're getting a little gravy going on here. This is what we call in the business pan gravy because it utilizes all the flavors that are just down in there. All I've done is add water so far. It utilizes all the flavors that we've already got existing on our pan, and all we've done is add water to it so far, which is wonderful. Let's take it up another notch. I'm just going to add a little bit more of that wonderful tamari. Maybe another tablespoon goes in there. Give it a bit of a stir. If you are cooking for a large group, you probably want to create more gravy than what I've created. But for us, this is a one-person dish, so we don't need too much. It's time to plate up. So bringing across my plate, my bench a bit of a wipe down. Bring it across my plate. I'm going to turn this off now. I don't want my gravy to evaporate too much. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. It just evaporated. And it's just coming across with my plate. All right. This is the exciting part. Let us plate up our fabulous little lunch that we have created. We have our wonderful cauliflower mash. This is gonna go on the base. Oh, already, are you? Can I get closer, Mace? You in there? Is it good? Okay, cool. All right, now cauliflower mash goes on the base, and yes, fellow fatties, that is one portion there. That is 170 grams of wonderful cauliflower. That goes in first. The next thing we're going to do is we need to put our steak on there. So I've got my steak across. I'm going to bring my chopping board back because I could sort of put the whole thing on there, or I could chop into it and see what sort of degrees we've got. So yeah, we are probably about medium well, but yeah, that's okay as well. Just going to chop through our little steaky. Goes on top there. Let's spread them out, make them look delicious. So that there is about 100 grams of our steak, which is our perfect portion. Let's not forget these wonderful little guys, which is our red onions go on top. That's about our 70 grams of red onions. And then of course, the final preparation. I don't have much left, but this is the best part. Pour on the gravy. It's a bit light on the gravy because my pan evaporated, but you get the idea. And that is it. Healthy potato, not potato, healthy cauliflower mash with beautifully cooked steak, some wonderful onions. All that's left to do is let's just give it a little bit of a seasoning. Let's give it a little bit of pepper. I mean, that looks fantastic. I think I shall be eating this one, just talking to the crew so they know that this is definitely for me. Let's also, just to give it a little bit of like bing bing, because something green on the plate always looks amazing. But remember, if you would like this recipe, please state in the comments below. Steak recipe, please, and we will send it automatically to you. But also just want to let you know that we have another cooking class coming up. And how long, guys? 30 minutes. We've got another cooking class coming up, cooking straight from my book. It's a little bit of a cook along, but in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this little dish, and hope to see you guys again really, really soon here in Bridget's Kitchen. And one last plug, shameless plug. Ta-da! Don't forget, here's my book. All the details are in my book on how to cook the perfect steak. Thanks, guys. See you soon.